Today I'm reviewing this little gadget here. This is the Saramonic SR-AX101. As you probably know already, XLR audio is the best sounding audio you're going to get because it uses a time-proven method of noise reduction or noise cancellation. So you definitely want to use XLR microphones if possible. But if your camera or your audio recorder doesn't have an XLR input, you're going to need some kind of audio adapter to get those XLR mics into your camera. And so this is Saramonic's version right here. As I said before, this is the SR-AX101. I've used the Sign Video XLR Pro for many, many years and been happy with it. So I was curious to see what Saramonic had to offer. If you look at the first side of the device, you have your XLR inputs labeled left and right, and they are mounted on a metal plate with two metal locking collars or latches that allow your XLR cables to latch into place and then be released by pushing the latches down. The XLR inputs themselves are actually black plastic. Turn the device again, and on the end you have a left channel line and mic switch. You have a mono and stereo switch. This switch will determine if your inputs are combined into both channels or if they're separated left and right. Then you have your right channel line and mic switch. Then you have a ground loop switch, which will help eliminate any hum you might have from a ground loop. Note that all these switches, while mounted on a metal plate, are plastic. You have an 1/8 inch aux input and an 1/8 inch output, which is where this coily cord goes that they send it to you, which is a little different than the model I've normally used. Which has a built-in 1/8 inch cord. This one you can plug in and out, and that will go to your camera or audio recorder. Turn the device again and you have your trim knobs. These will adjust your volume for you, and they are labeled left and right. They are actually not plastic but have a rubbery coating to them, and they are also the kind of firmer clicky knobs which will allow them to stay into place and not accidentally move if you bump them. Right above that you have kind of a thumb knob here which will allow you to attach or detach items onto this tripod thread right here, which will turn as you turn this knob, making it much easier to align things because you don't have to actually spin it on top or need a tool on the bottom to mount with a screwdriver, which is how my old audio interface did it. On the very top you have your tripod mount on a kind of squishy, spongy surface, so whatever you mount to it is going to stay mounted if it's tightened. And on the bottom you have another tripod mount, or a female thread. Note that the whole case is actually plastic and not metal. But it's an audio interface, so how does the thing sound? Well, I did some tests. I plugged some XLRs in here and I listened to them. So this is my test setup. I've got the Saramonic SR-AX101 connected to my Zoom H1 handy recorder. And I've got a ME66, a Sennheiser shotgun mic going into the left input right here, the left XLR input, as you can see right there. The right input is empty, but it's occupied with the aux input right here. This is my unbalanced lav mic, my Radio Shack lav. Now, an interesting thing I discovered about this is that if you try and plug an unpowered microphone into this aux port right here, you will hear nothing because the Radio Shack mic is actually run on a battery, a small button cell, which goes right here. But the Aspen mic that I normally use draws power from the recorder or the camera, and if you have a microphone like that and you try and plug it into one of these devices, it will draw no power from this and it won't work. If I hit the mono switch, you'll now put both microphones in mono mode. They'll be mixed to both channels, but for our purposes we're going to leave them both in stereo. Notice both microphones are in the microphone setting in both channels, not the line setting. The ground loop switch right there isn't doing anything in either position because there is no ground loop issues. But our trim pots over here, as you can see, the left side is occupied by the much hotter Sennheiser, so it's cranked way down, and the Radio Shack lav mic is turned all the way up because it's a much weaker microphone. I've actually got the Zoom here running full blast. It's at the full level it can possibly put out here, and so I'm actually going to show you what I'm talking about here. You might notice the noise floor is rather high, but I'm going to turn it way down now. And as a result, the microphones are going to fade here for a second. Now that previous level was 100 on the Zoom H1 because the Radio Shack mic is so weak. But now I can turn down the Sennheiser and it should sound a lot better because the noise floor is now a lot lower opposed to before when it was turned up all the way to 100. Now it's pegged all the way here, but it's set at about 55, and it should sound a lot better. Of course, the Radio Shack mic on the right side now is very hard to hear because it's turned so far down. But you can kind of get an idea what this type of an interface does. And the Saramonic does it all very well. It does what it's supposed to do. All the switches work. All the inputs are good. That ends our test. Overall, I like the Saramonic SR-AX101. If you need to take two XLR inputs and turn them into an 1/8" output that you can put into your camera or audio recorder, this isn't a bad deal for 80 bucks. The only takeaway is that most of this is plastic. The switches, the case, the tripod thread, the thumb wheel, the XLR inputs themselves are all plastic. So if durability is a main concern for you, you might want to spend the $40 or $50 on another interface. But if you want to save some money and you want something that performs solidly, looks good, does what it's supposed to do, but just might be a slight question of its durability, then you might want to take a look at this. I think it's a good deal, and I recommend it. If you like this review, please come to thefrugalfilmmaker.com for more, and thanks for watching.